Hey, it is the 3 o'clock hour. It is October 11th, 2017. At this time, we'll call the Del Norte Local Transportation Commission meeting to order. And if you'll all please stand, I will lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. At this time, I'm going to open it up for public comment. Anyone wishing to make public comments regarding matters either on or off the agenda and within the Commission's jurisdiction may do so at this time. However, the Commission is not permitted to act on non-agenda items. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes or less. Is there any public comment? Okay, seeing as how there is no public comment, I'll close the public comment period, and we will adjourn to the Policy Advisory Committee. And we are going to take up the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve. Can I get a second?
Seconded.
A motion and a second. Any public comment on the consent agenda items? Seeing no public comment, then we'll bring it back to the board. Any more discussion? Would you please poll the vote?
Commissioner Fallman,
Yes.
Commissioner Hemmingson,
Yes.
Commissioner Kine,
Yes.
Policy Advisor Tucker.
Yes. You want my vote or?
Commissioner Howard.
Yes.
Sorry.
Well, she didn't know whether you were, but never mind.
No. Easy. Easy.
Okay. Is that the entire, are we moving on to policy and administration? Okay. Thought that was an awful big consent agenda. Okay, so Tamara, I guess you're up.
Moving through this, we have a last chance grade public meeting scheduled on October 18th, and I understand that we've talked about that in the last couple meetings. In case somebody's listening in and is not yet aware of that, that meeting will be on October 8th in the evening, and I'm not quite sure. I think it's going to be at the fairgrounds, but I'm not quite sure. Yeah, at the fairgrounds. And just to let all of you know, I have a vacation scheduled on that day, and I will not be present at that meeting. I will actually be on an airplane, just a long time scheduled vacation. The 199 intersection at Elk Valley Crossroad, I don't have anything new to report about that.
So, I know you don't have anything new to report about that. We had a pretty lengthy discussion at the last meeting. I'm hoping our friends at Caltrans can kind of update us on some of the questions we had following that discussion.
Yeah, I think this is the opportunity for Darren Hill from Traffic Safety to answer your questions.
And welcome. Good morning.
And I'm here representing Traffic Safety. I'll explain the program and then open to questions. The Highway Safety Program is a strategic plan to address the data-driven needs of the community. The focus is measurable reductions to a identified collision pattern. Each improvement must address a pattern of collisions. HFST, which is high friction, which we did out on 29, for wet collisions. Intersection lighting for nighttime collisions at an intersection. The system as a whole statewide is divided into 177 different segments, so that we are not comparing Del Norte 199 with, say, LA 405. The idea is that we're looking at your chance of having a collision on an individual type of road versus just the total number of collisions. It's not driven by having 20 collisions gets us a project kind of thing. It's driven on what is your percentage of having a collision, and what are we having out there in reality. And so it's broken up by speed, terrain, ramp, intersection, highway type, area, signal versus stop, ramp type, if it's rural, urban, how many lanes it is, whatnot, okay? We have looked at the intersection. We are in the last 2 years, we asked CHP for the most recent collision history, and they have 2 collisions out there. So we don't have a pattern of behavior that would be addressed by a project. We've done numerous incremental improvements, and they've now been shown to be effective. And the goal of the program is to do incremental improvements until such time as they're not shown to be effective, and then we do a much larger project. And that way we're the most efficient with the funds. So at this time, we do not have a pattern of behavior that can be addressed by the safety program. So, maybe this isn't or is the time. We also looked at the daylight headlight section that was brought up. It only met one of the 6 warrants necessary for a daylight headlight section. So while it might seem to be effective, studies would show that it wouldn't be effective by implementing it here. Well, in the other quarter. And then we did do a signal warrant analysis at Elk Valley, and it met none of the warrants. So there's 9 warrants for it, and it didn't meet any of those. So, questions?
Chris, you had something?
I've got several, if you don't mind.
Sure.
The traffic counts that occurred there, do you recall the period of time that was measured this last go-around?
September 21st, 2016, and July 18th, 2017. So we got,
Just one day?
that's how it works, yeah.
That's how it works.
You do it in the middle of the week.
So what was the date again?
September 21st, 2016,
21st. And then what was the other date?
July 18th, 2017.
Do you know what days those fall on, what days of the week?
I know it'd be a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. And we then calculate up and down what the average annual daily traffic would be. We understand that summertime it would be higher, but we understand weekends would be higher, generally speaking, that kind of thing. And so it can calculate, you factor those in. The reality, it's not even close.
So you're familiar with this intersection then?
I've driven through it now, yes.
Just once?
It's been a long time. I generally handle the southern Lake and Mendocino County.
Okay.
So,
For Region 1?
yeah.
So I think what we've, and I'll use the word picked on because unfortunately he's your only representative here
But-
most of the time. And if I come across a little negative, it's because I have constituents I need to deal with that have lost family members at that intersection. And so don't take what I'm saying too bluntly. But
Say what you need to say.
Caltrans has an issue there, and it really is seasonal. And I think what ends up happening there, and I'm not sure any measurement's going to get us to that point, which fits into a model based on parameters that you just mentioned, is going to be able to measure how people unfamiliar with an area respond to the mess that's currently at 199 and Elk Valley Crossroads. That seasonality with this unknown individual coming to our area for the first time is what's definitely playing a factor in what I would call a significant number of near misses at that intersection, which I get reports on personally, but I also have, thanks to the work that our director has gone through with the new website, which I can't even figure out how to use yet, but she's trying to instruct me the best she can. I'm not sure how we're going to get to a point where people are going to feel comfortable going through there with basically a transient population that we have here in the summer. I know because I have to drive through that intersection twice a day, and sometimes more than that our seasonal fluxes through there are significant, especially on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. I'm not sure if it's going to generate even a measurement above what you use as your baseline to put us over that mark for whether it's a traffic signal or something else. But what we do see in my personal opinion and my experience, definitely calls for something there. And I've sat there and observed it. I've sat there with the friends that have lost their parents there for hours and watched how people respond coming into that intersection. And it's something that measurements aren't going to predict. But they slow down to a point, people who are not familiar with it, slow down to a point, to a crawl, because they're trying to decide what direction to go. And they can't figure it out based on the signs. And then you got people who are very familiar with that intersection coming in at a high rate of speed off of 101, heading east towards Grants Pass, and they're doing 65 to 70 miles an hour around that turn. And they're coming into that intersection the other direction, and they're sneaking up, and people are trying to get out of the way. And it's an absolute mess and chaos, especially during our peak traffic periods, which I would call beginning of June through middle of September. And I'm not sure how we as the folks on the ground here that have to tell our constituents that nothing's going to be done, how we can convey what we're seeing on the ground to you, a guy that really needs numbers to fit into a model or a formula to generate an outcome that's going to make folks here happy.
It's not that something can't be done. What I said is nothing can be done from the safety program.
Okay.
So when we look at collision warrant, or at signal warrant analysis, that's different than the collisions, okay? Signal warrant analysis would be an operational improvement. Now, District 1 has no money for operational improvements.
Sure.
But that's what you're looking at. That means looking from a different pot of money, from a different program, and findings. Roundabouts cost about $6 million.
We just put one out over here for $2 million, and I know because I secured the funding with it for
Well,
it,
But on the
This
state
is a lot
highways.
bigger.
but.
State highway.
and I
Big-
get it.
Yeah.
So-
Way.
And there's prevailing wage and all that other fun
Yeah,
stuff.
we
So
have
that's-
2053 and 29 Hartman Road are both going to construction next year, and they're both $6 million. Plus support costs.
You guys are getting fleeced.
If you go that route, and as an intersection improvement, generally, each agency pays for their leg of the intersection. So if you have 2 legs, then you would pay 2. If you have 1 leg, you'd pay a quarter, whatnot. So that's the kind of money you're talking about, in today's dollars, not in what it would cost in 5 years. But it's something that if you created a purpose and a need and a project, then you could look at trying to fund that through SB1 or some other program at some point in the future. I'm representing the safety program.
Okay.
We have only, that I am aware of, District 1 has only built roundabouts from the safety program, and it's only due to a high volume of collisions.
Sure.
Not that you couldn't do it, and not that the district would be opposed to it at all, but you would have to factor in that you may be likely to support a significant amount of the cost.
Okay.
Did I hear you say that there was only been 2 collisions there?
2 reported collisions in the
Since-
last couple of years, yeah.
In 2 years. He says since 2016, if I remember right.
That's what CHP's
Yeah.
lieutenant told me. So
I
I have
just-
no reason to question him.
Yeah, I don't either. It's kind of strange that I know of 2 collisions that have, I know 2 collisions that have happened there, and it would be really strange that I would know them all.
Small town, I live in Fort Bragg, you hear everything from everybody, and you think, wow, did lots, no, it was the same collision.
So I know that there's been a lot of engineering done and a lot of thought put into this on what they've put out there, what we have there right now.
Right.
And those of us that drive there frequently have figured it out, and we know what to expect. But I think, as Chris was saying, the transient population looks at that, it looks very busy. You've
Yes,
got a lot of
there's a lot going
stuff,
on.
there's a lot of stuff going on. You're just coming out of the redwoods, it opens up, and people are thinking, okay, here we go. And they do. And then you got people coming off the freeway that are really not slowing down.
Till they're through it. Right.
And
People,
so,
I mean, we know
what,
people don't take their.
are there
their-
other things
yeah.
that we can do to address that? It is a little spooky. It's a little less spooky if you go through there a lot. I mean, I think it isn't, but I mean, if you're kind of used to it, you know what to look for. But that population that doesn't know, that's
Well,
the scary unknown.
It was noted the directional guide signs may be confusing. We can look at that. But I'm open to suggestions. If you have a suggestion outside of a major capital
It's
project.
not comfortable sitting at that, and especially if you're the person sitting out, it feels like you're sitting out in the middle of the highway, essentially to get to that.
Because of the
What-
left turn, or the right turn.
If you're
pocket.
going across the crossroads off of Elk Valley, you're basically, because of the way it's designed now, you have to sit out in the middle of the highway, which gives you less.
Well,
the
but you got less
distance to
distance, less distance to travel.
But it feels creepy
They do that on
sitting there
purpose. It does a little
when
bit.
somebody's flying by 70 miles an hour right off the nose of your car. And you gotta have your wits about you when you're going across. And that's that uncomfortable nature of this that Commissioner Hemmingson is speaking to. I don't know what to do about it, and maybe it's not the right discussion to have with your department. And not to say that I appreciate the work and effort that Caltrans has put into this. I had hoped for better results to what we see as a real super important need here in the community. And I guess what I would request guidance on from Caltrans, from both you guys, is where do we as a commission or we as electeds need to put our pressure and appropriate attention now if traffic safety is not the right venue to push this forward. And I know you mentioned SB1 and as a possible avenue to pursue, but sorry, Director,
Yeah, no, there really isn't much money in SB1 that is coming to the Transportation Commission type organizations across the state. It's going to cities and counties to maintain what they have. So which is really the focus of SB1 is its focus is maintaining what we have, not building new, not even to a great extent to operational improvements. The Transportation Commission will get additional STIP funding, not a significant amount more, but our STIP funding is all tied up in litigation right now. So if there was a way that we could directly influence moving this through, our STIP funding is the only avenue that I know of where the Regional Transportation Planning Agency can push forward with funding and setting priorities to move a project through. We can continue to, I'm not sure it's productive to continue to have it on our agenda month over month. I certainly don't mind doing that. I can bring it up in the RTPA meeting that I have with District 1. I can talk to Mark Sekonic about it. He might have some ideas about how we can move forward, but in terms of operational improvements, we know how difficult it is to have operational improvements done on Highway 199, and without having dollars to put in the project, and we don't right now because we don't have STIP funds available. I don't know how much ground we can gain in the short term.
And when you say our STIP dollars are tied up in litigation, you're specifically speaking towards 199, is that correct?
Right. Our STIP dollars are tied up in paying for a bridge that we don't yet have.
Well, we have certain environmental groups to thank for that. But
That's-
besides that point, update me then on STIP. Annually, we see an allocation.
It's every 2 years, it's on a 2-year cycle. The
Right.
STIP is on a 2-year cycle, and we are actually working on the RTIP, Regional Transportation Improvement Program documents right now. I'm working on those documents. They will be probably in the December meeting, and in that December meeting with the RTIP documents, you'll have a clear idea about where we are with the numbers of paying down our advance in the STIP,
Sure.
because we advanced funds. What happens when we advance funds is, as it was a surprise to both Matt Brady and me, we talked about advancing funds in 3 cycles over 6 years, but it's 3 cycles over 6 years or however long it takes to pay down your advanced dollars. So when the economy declined, and there was 1 year of a 0 STIP, so you go through a cycle where you're paying down nothing and nobody's getting anything. And so the decline of the economy right after the advance is what's making it take so long to pay down that advance. But it does decline every year, and there will be a time when we have STIP dollars back. And when we bring the RTIP documents to the commission in December, we'll have a very clear idea about where we are with our STIP dollars and how it looks moving forward. So the advance will be paid faster with the passage of SB1, but we still pay that money before there is new money now, but there's not enough new money to make the advance go away, even now.
Well, I'll just add to that, in terms of the funding programs, there are some specific funding programs within SB1, but I don't believe that those would apply to this type of project. Just as an example, there's a congested corridors program, there's a freight program, there's actually one that's called local partnerships,
Yep.
which the CTC has not set out the guidelines yet, so we don't know what exactly that's going to apply to. But typically, something like that would include STIP dollars or something, some sort of match, local match that
So
the state would contribute to.
Yeah, so the congested corridors program, we would not, that's an urban focused program for congested corridors. The freight program is really focused on areas that are part of the core freight network, and Highway 199 is not on that, part of that core freight network that the state has designated. We're not even close.
299 on it?
I don't believe so. I don't believe that 299 is on that core freight network.
299 is on,
Is it part of
Yes,
the
that's
core
miss-
freight network?
That's miss.
but there's kind of
There's-
different classifications, so even
Okay.
within the freight network, there's some higher priority areas,
Yeah.
which are not in District 1.
It's not, 199 is not going to qualify for freight network funding. The partnership program, my understanding of the partnership program was for folks who are self-help counties who have voted a taxed measure to tax themselves for transportation infrastructure, and then they are eligible for the partnership program. They used to be called self-help coalition or self-help counties, they still are, and this program through SB1, I think is pretty specifically designed to be in partnership with those areas, those regions who are taxing themselves for their transportation infrastructure. There are some rural communities, but most often it's an urban solution rather than a rural solution, because we don't generate enough taxpayer dollar to make any significant impact anyway. So that's, I think that if we continue to watch it, the next step would be to develop a PID. If we have a PID, then we could look at funding solutions. The project initiation documents in general identify the things that Kevin Tucker mentioned, the purpose and need, cost, scope, and schedule are generally developed or moved forward through the PID, and it's by that document that you have a chance of getting something funded, but you don't just go develop PIDs without any idea about how you're going to fund a project. So you get a little bit of a chicken and egg thing going there, of a cycle of what comes first, the purpose and need or the PID itself. I don't think that we should let this go, but I don't know, given the results of the safety information, I don't know how we're going to move it up to a high enough priority to have it be funded in District 1 or in the state, especially without STIP dollars.
Yeah, it is a little disappointing that we got to get our numbers up.
Right.
It's not about getting numbers up,
But-
but having a pattern of behavior that is correctable by a project.
Yeah.
And we try to put our money to the highest
And
pattern.
it's certainly understandable, I'm not disputing that, but are there other options as far as the look of the intersection, of the way, is there an opportunity to look at other similar intersections and what has been done, or is this what we've done out there?
What we have done appears to be successful. I mean, we've been out there multiple times over the years, adding, adjusting, changing, and now it appears to be successful. That being said, we can go back and look at additional changes. There are going to be minor changes, if it's a striping change or
Yeah.
a signing
Well,
change.
just
or-
the whole
I mean,
look of it.
you could throw out something big like you close off one leg of Elk Valley Road and turn it into, you know, some other kind of a way of getting in and out, because that leg appears to be extremely short on the one side. I'm not saying that's what we do. I'm saying those are the kind of options we could look at.
There- And I got to stop you, Darren. There's success from the standpoint of not having a collision, but it has not stopped the confusion associated with the transient population that is coming in there through bulk in 4 months out of the year, that's literally coming to a stop on a highway, trying to make a determination while locals are flying through there at 70 miles an hour, trying to get from point A to point B, and causing this, what I have seen at times, skid marks 50 feet long because they're locking up their brakes while somebody's trying to decide whether or not to go to Oregon or go to Crescent City. And you're not going to see that on a traffic cam.
You're not, but me seeing it from the south area, I would be a transient. That, part of this is I'm going through as somebody, I used to work up here years ago, but I mean, it's been over a decade. So it's like driving through the very first time. So the whole idea was me trying to get a different perspective on this, because we have a history of getting into a established focus, does it meet all the criteria, and walk away. So that's what I did. I can go back and look at directional signs. Like I said, there are minor things we can do. If it's a striping change or something under $200,000, $250,000, that's something we can do in the district and have a project done in a fairly short order. But anything more than that, it can't come out of the safety program. We have to look at some other pot of money. And when you talk about roundabouts, then now you're talking about millions. The smaller the improvement, the faster and easier somebody can absorb it into their program. If you have a suggestion, we're all ears.
So
And we really are.
It's about leveraging our STIP dollars at some point down the road. We've advanced them for a project that's been tied up in litigation now for a decade.
I think so. You still have to justify spending that much money. I don't.
We would have.
I think it's still
yeah.
going to be competitive. I mean, you still have a competitive portion of that when you use those STIP dollars. Am I not right?
Well, we would have to take a look at all of the regional needs. So we would consider the needs that the city has, the county has, we have on the state highway system, the tribes, the airport, you know, all of those areas, all of those jurisdictions that really make up the region of Del Norte in its entirety. You know, if you take a look at a regional transportation plan and look at the priorities, we are making good progress on the gateway areas. Caltrans is making good progress on our behalf on the gateway areas, but they aren't going to be able to provide the entire project because there are some obligations for that project that are outside of their jurisdiction. That would be some combination of city, county, harbor, who knows. But so there might be, looking into the future, some finish up of the gateway, both north and south gateway areas, that we might consider if we had STIP dollars today. And I'm just thinking through the regional transportation
Sure.
plan. The next is Front Street. How would we resolve the issues with Front Street had we some STIP dollars to make a contribution to that project?
But it gets back to the age-old argument that we've had since we started discussions on 197, 199 about using STIP dollars for local roads and streets. And it gets back to the STIP dollars and identifying them for our state highway system.
Well, it's an obligation of the Transportation Commission to consider projects on the state highway system with the state funds.
Well-
And what ends up happening, and not all of the time, but somewhat consistently happening, is there's a range of STIP dollars that you can be awarded, and if you are using your state dollars, your STIP dollars on local projects, the California Transportation Commission has a history of awarding the lower end of the dollar range, not the upper end of the dollar range. If you're funding a necessary project on the state highway system, you typically, and not always, from the CTCC awards that are in the higher dollar range amounts within your own region's range. So our range might be from $2 million to $6 million. It's a pretty wide range, or $2 million to $4 million. And if we were to fund only local projects with our state dollars, you would probably see an award in the lower $2 million range rather than in the higher $4 million range.
And we've
So-
also seen at those same meetings with that Transportation Commission, and I could clearly remember Jim Arp saying various things, no award, period, of STIP dollars when some regions approached projects on local streets and roads. And I can remember that as far back as 2007 and 8.
The CTC does have an ability to reject an RTIP in its entirety. They don't typically do that, but they can do that, and that certainly has been done before, is that an entire region is just sent back to the table to rework their RTIP is rejected. They don't reject a portion of it or a project in it, they reject the document as a whole. There is no sort of, you have to go back to the table and do it again. But it's, that's the trends of the California Transportation Commission, is that when you are funding local projects with state money, you get less.
Yep.
I did have a thought on that intersection, and that's the portion that goes to Kings Valley Road, that where that crosses. If you eliminated that intersection, I think it would tend for it not to be so busy, that once you got into that right lane, you're going to, if you're going to Oregon, that's what you would have, and you'd only have one choice. Whereas people see that first turn and they're thinking, is this where I turn to go to Oregon, or is the next one where I turn to go to Oregon? And I don't know that that's utilized all that much, and I don't have the numbers, and people are going to come out of the woodwork now to tell me, oh, no, we can't do that. But there's been trucks that have tipped over going on that intersection that have turned left to go on to Parkway there, because it's such a steep turn. And I don't know what the impact would be, and I'm just throwing it out there, but if you eliminated that intersection, you could still come off of Parkway and get onto 199. I don't think that would be an issue, but that cross traffic right there and getting off of the highway at Kings Valley Road might create less of confusion, or, not be so busy. It's just a thought. I don't know how that would work, and I don't know how the public would view that.
But that's the kind of thing that, okay, if you have something, that's something that can be studied. It can be brought back with minimal expense in comparison to a major project. To look at, a plan could be brought forward, public comment could be taken, and it could die right there, or it could move forward.
Yeah. I just think if
But
you had
that's-
that longer transition to go to Oregon, you could have more signage so that people could see that. They have a longer period of time to get over into that lane or to be moving through traffic, so.
That Kings Valley Road intersection, I think you're right, and the workaround for the folks who live in that area is minimum.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not, if we were to, we couldn't reasonably, I don't believe that we could reasonably eliminate the Elk Valley Crossroad connection, because the workaround for that is, what,
Oh.
5 to 8 miles? I
Yeah,
mean, that's
okay.
really a needed crossroad. The Elk Valley Crossroad is to reach across 199, 101, and over to Elk Valley Road
Right,
on the
that
other
portion,
side.
the
That
long
portion is really needed, but the upper end of the
short
hill,
section.
the upper end of the hill, if you
Right,
say
I think-
the uphill
Right.
portion that's closer to the parks of Kings Valley Road, that would I think, more reasonably be a consideration without as significant of consequences. The area where I really don't like is if I'm coming from Gasky, turning onto Parkway Drive, and I'm making that left turn onto Parkway Drive, that's where I feel like I'm sitting out there in the middle of traffic. And I would much rather, and often do, just take that next step and go down to the crossroad, because there's a turn pocket there.
Yeah.
It's
And the grade is not as steep. I mean, there's a couple.
Right.
Like I say, there's been several trucks that have tipped over right there. We don't have as much trucking going that direction now since Hambro's not there, but there have been
right.
incidents that's been a while ago, but of trucks actually tipping over there, so.
So let me take that back to District 1 and talk to them about,
It's just a thought that I'm throwing
Yeah.
out
Yeah,
there
no,
to,
but it's something we can study.
but you,
That's, I mean, we're
you're-
at an impasse now.
Yeah.
That gives us another direction
Yeah.
to look at.
yeah, I just think that would maybe, I don't know what you do about the traffic coming off of the freeway, at high rates of speed, and it's not very far from getting off of the highway till you're at that intersection. And I don't know what we can do as far as calming that needs to be addressed too.
It's
whether
about 3 to 5 seconds
Yeah.
of visibility, what you got if you're doing 65 to 70 miles an hour.
but if we didn't have that Kings Valley Road left turn coming downhill, we would have more room. We
Right.
could have an additional sign, we
Right.
could
Yep.
maybe have a flashing
It's a
light.
great
I don't,
suggestion.
I mean, I'm thinking about, when you come down that hill on 20, and you've got a stop sign on one side, and folks entering Highway 20, I don't remember where that is, it's, because I drive that road and zone out. But there's that, there's a big flashing light that warns you of cross-traffic. And, but I think it's a good suggestion,
At
something
least
to
coming
take a
from
look
that
at.
direction. Like I said, we need to work on something coming off the freeway. And I know they've put some effort into doing that. I think there is a flashing light, isn't there?
There's a flashing light and a reduced speed.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's something more we can do with that, maybe another one.
Rumble strips.
Yeah, maybe, well, something, something to
Speed bumps.
shake people, yeah. Something to
Sorry,
shake people up
even
there.
suggested, I'm sorry.
No, it's
no,
it's
hey.
fine.
Strike that from the minutes.
It's, it's hard to slow people down, it's hard to slow locals down. I have a hard time slowing down. I mean, I'm used to it, I know it. Of course, I'm looking for the cross-traffic, I know that's coming up. Some people that come off the freeway don't have any idea what's going on. Of course, there's a sign that says intersection, but, unless you live it and see it, it's a whole different thing. But it is difficult to come off the freeway and slow down to, suggested 45 miles an hour or whatever it is for that intersection.
So Darren, who would we talk to about taking a look at any help that might give us as a community by eliminating that small piece, the Kings Valley Road?
That our unit can look at. We can
Okay.
study.
I don't
that.
know if it would be you or somebody else. No.
We'll take
Okay.
it and create an investigation for it.
Have you been out there today?
No, last week.
Okay. Recently, though? Yeah.
Okay?
Heidi, did you have
Anything
something?
else?
Well, I mean, forgive me, I've only been doing this for less than a year, so I don't know.
Okay, we'll forgive you.
I'm learning some of the acronyms, that's all I can say. Thank you. We had a one-day study for the data collection.
Okay.
Do you guys ever put up cameras at any of these locations for an extended length of time so that the near misses?
We'll do up to 7 days. We have a battery backup, and we'll set up cameras for a week at a time, but that doesn't really change the warrant analysis for volumes.
Okay.
So we'll see the fluctuation, but the statistically speaking, over time, that all the fluctuation is absorbed
Okay.
in the warrants. So we always do it Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but then there's a calculation for it, and it shows higher volumes in different months and different days of the month, and it's actually extremely accurate.
Okay.
I know it seems odd, but
No,
when you
no.
divide the state system into 177 different segments, you really can get similars. I mean, you say, well, this is, Del Norte up here, and this is over in Lake County, and this is in Butte County, and this is down in San Bernardino. But when you look at all the factors combined, they get very similar.
Okay.
So,
All right, I was just,
Yeah.
postulating further data collection. I mean, there's no doubt about it. We're all in agreement that there's near misses. We're all in agreement that there's possible sign clutter. I'm just trying to think of
Okay.
solutions
Yeah.
for more info.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that the Caltrans staff believes us. We don't need to show them. I think that they truly believe us, what we're saying. We've said it often enough. So, but it's, the believing us or not is not the concern.
And it's, a similar situation across Elk Valley going across 101. Although there is a safe haven out there in the middle, I'm not sure how safe that is, especially when you got one car out there and it decides to stop and then the next car comes in behind it. But, you know, that's a kind of a scary intersection too. And they've done, I mean, they put bigger stop signs up, which I guess that means stop faster. I don't know.
Pay
Stop
attention to
bigger.
the stop sign.
I guess,
We
yeah.
meant it for a
There
reason.
really is a stop sign there.
Yeah.
There really is a need to stop. But, you know, they do that same thing as they try to push that intersection out, you know, into the traffic so that you don't have to go so far. And I think that makes a lot of people uneasy, but it's not a very safe intersection either. And anytime you cross a highway like that, you know, and there's so many lanes, I mean, you have people coming down the freeway that are turning left, they're turning right, they're traveling through, and they're doing the same thing on the other side of the median. It's not a good situation either. And I know there's been accidents on that one too. Just throwing it out there.
Just throw it out there.
Elk Valley needs to be raised up over the top of the world, I think.
The Elk Valley overpass.
Elk Valley overpass, start, yeah. Darren, thank you for all your information, appreciate it. Okay, anybody have anything else on that? Okay. Tamara, you want to move on?
I'm sure the 199 intersection at State Route 197, Mr. Hill commented on that. It was John Mertz came to our meeting last month and described a situation that he experienced, and he thought maybe a daylight headlight section there would help with visibility and
And that's not just a visibility issue there.
No.
For somebody who drives through that every day,
Yeah.
it's an absolute another mess to deal with, especially in the summer with people who don't know where they're going. One thing I would love to suggest is trying to figure out a way we could cone off or put white standards up like we have at the Elk Valley and 199 piece that blocks that triangle off. People park in that because they're absolutely confused on what direction to go. I'm not sure if we're not doing signage soon enough for where it says go to Oregon on 197 or what, but you get people coming down 199, they have no idea where they're going, and then because they missed a turn, they pull right into that diamond on 197, and they sit there and park. You have zero visibility as you're looking upstream, and it gets to be a mess. I've had a collision in there myself because people didn't know what they were doing. There's got to be another way to address that mess.
It's
Keep people out of the triangle for one thing.
It's DMV's fault.
Yeah, and but they can't.
Way too
when-
many driver's licenses out to a lot of people who shouldn't have them.
including me and my son. But the other problem is, as people traveling 197 gonna turn on to 199, you get a situation where, because of the grade raise right there, you can't see the triangle. And so I really think an elevated cone type structure there would help, because they literally don't think to do that little turn before you get onto the highway at 199. They go right into the triangle to make their turn. They miss it completely. And that really screws up people trying to turn left onto 197. So,
yeah, because of the visibility.
and that,
Okay.
it happens really frequently during the summer months.
So you're talking about those stand-up sticks that you can
The
drive
stand-up
over
white
if you
sticks you
need-
could drive
yeah.
over if you
Channel
can.
markers, yeah.
Then they have reflectors on them.
Okay.
And that's a simple fix, right? Since we're all looking for simple fixes right now.
Nothing simple.
I know, we might have to pay prevailing wage to get those installed too.
Okay. So the US 101 Transportation Concept Report, we've been working with Caltrans, and Caltrans has been working on updating the TCRs, or Transportation Concept Reports. They used to be called the Route Concept Report, so if you look up old ones, they use a different title. But these Transportation Concept Reports are an overall view of the long-term purpose and use of the U.S. highway system for a specific area. The U.S. 101 Transportation Concept Report was signed. I received it in my inbox this morning. I didn't know if it would be out yet by the meeting. And both I and county staff made comment on the Transportation Concept Report draft that we received a few months ago. And it took a bit of time to work things out, but Caltrans was responsive to our comments, and they did make some changes in the concept for US 101 through the Smith River area. So I wanted to just publicly say I appreciate Caltrans listening to us and the needs of the community of Smith River for that area. I think that in the long run will be helpful. The TCR I just received this morning, and I can send it out to the Transportation Commissioners, my whole agenda group, for anybody who would like to see it. I have it as a document. It's most likely posted on Caltrans website too. So if it's there, I'll send out a link and the document so you can choose which way you'd like to see it. But just a heads up that document is complete. They were responsive to the county's comments and our comments. And so that's one to wrap up, and we have another one to go. And any questions about the 101 TCR? The Safe Routes to School program, we have completed the Safe Routes to School program. We have submitted all our final documents. We're receiving our final reimbursement from the state. And the program has really been a success when you count our numbers. So I included in your document the final submission paperwork. There was a lot more of it than this, but I thought, what's the little bit that's reasonable? If you wanted to read about our closeout, there it is. And I also wanted to just really publicly thank the folks who delivered that program, and they just did a bang-up job. So that would be Karen Phillips initially in setting up and delivering that program to our community, and then Amber Weir following Karen to continue the program, take care of the paperwork, and close it out. And I think both of those women did a really good job for our community, and I appreciate their work. And their work shows in the numbers that they really put themselves out there and cared about the program. All of you volunteered during our walk and roll to school days, but we have more kids walking at our focus school sites than we had before. And if you live in that area, if you watch it, you can see it, you know it, but when we count, it also shows in our counts. When we set up our counts, I thought, oh my gosh, these numbers are very ambitious. But we actually exceeded our count projections significantly. So I'm very pleased about that and grateful for the people who delivered the program.
Cool. Anything else? Any questions about the discussion items? Any public comment on these discussion items that we've just gone through? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to commissioners' comments and reports. Alex, anything? Chris?
Yeah, I'll add just a big thank you to the Transportation Commission. I know Tamara was out at the ribbon cutting for the roundabout on Sandmine and Humboldt Road today. And many people don't recall that a lot of the effort that this commission put in, especially the executive director, to provide funding for the initial work on that project and some of the match funding. Got that off the ground. So thank you to the director and the commission for helping to make that project in District 5 a success.
great. Yeah.
And
Looks
a great
great.
partnership with the tribe.
Yeah. And you know, if I could comment on that, the tribe really did a good job sticking with it to delivery. I mean, it takes a long time, and people get, you know, they get distracted by other things. And, you know, with our transportation projects, you have to stick with it until it's delivered. And they've done that, and I'm grateful for that.
Hi, did you have anything? Anything?
Just wanted to mention again the Last Chance Grade Open House, October 18th from 6:30 to 8 p.m. at the fairgrounds.
Okay.
Is that going to be on the radio and newspapers?
I actually am not familiar with what.
And I forgot to bring this up on the conference call Friday, but one of our supervisors yesterday mentioned that she hadn't even heard about the meeting yet, and I want to make sure that the public is aware that this is coming.
So maybe we need to share, is there an event that we could share on social media or?
Caltrans handles all of the public information, so it goes through their PIO, but I can certainly make that communication. Kevin and I can do it in partnership and make sure that the public information is out there. Maybe the triplicate would be a good partner in helping provide information about that upcoming meeting sooner rather than later. They've been really good about that. So an article in the triplicate would probably go a long way to notification too.
Okay, great. And I will not be able to make that meeting. I'll be out down in the fire country. Hopefully that gets taken care of. It's what a mess down there.
Yeah.
It's too bad for those residents in that area. But I did want to know, is Congressman Huffman, is he going to put together another stakeholders meeting at some point
Yes.
this year?
Yes. Well, I don't know when the next stakeholder meeting will be. I do, in our regional transportation plan, or in our overall work program for this year, we have a scope of work that we talked about in cooperation with U.S. Congressman Huffman's office about putting together a public information piece about last chance grade that is a paper piece that is a mass mailing about this point in time and where we are. So I'll be working with Caltrans, after we complete this meeting, I'll be working with Caltrans and U.S. Congressman Huffman's office to bring that effort together, fund a part or all of it. We'll see how we come together with money, but to put public information out there in a way that doesn't get interpreted or misinterpreted by folks. And the way that we could best do that is to put it in writing and to send it to the general public in writing. So we'll be working on that this year. In terms of the stakeholder process, the Transportation Commission is still funding the stakeholder process, and what Congressman Huffman's office has requested is that we continue to fund it until we have a project, the project's narrowed down, if not one selected from that group. Not bypassing the Caltrans process and the environmental process, but if we have a preferred alternative from that stakeholder group. So that was the goal of the group, is to come up with a preferred alternative from the stakeholder perspective.
Yeah.
And not having anything to do with it, well, not completely separate, but not supplanting the environmental process in the way that that preferred alternative takes place. So we haven't yet gotten to the point where we can have a preferred alternative. I think that the geotechnical work that's being done right now is really important. We don't even know if we can build the road in the areas where we're imagining that we might. So once we get some of that geotechnical work done, we'll have more information. I believe the stakeholders will come back together again, and the Transportation Commission still has money in that allocation to support that process. And should we run out of money before we run out of time, I'm confident that U.S. Congressman Huffman's office will come back and say we need another 3 meetings or whatever to get to that preferred alternative. But that's really sort of our end game goal with that group, is for that group to have a preferred alternative selected.
Okay, so at this time, we are going to adjourn as the Policy Advisory Committee, reconvene as the Delmar Local Transportation Commission, and if I can get a motion.
Move to approve recommendations of the Policy Advisory Committee.
And a second.
Seconded.
And a second. Any public comment? Seeing no public comment, bring it back to the board. Would you poll the vote, please?
Yes.
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 Yes. And with that, we will adjourn to our next regular scheduled meeting on Wednesday, November the 8th.